and welcome to Happy You Asked, the podcast where we explore a little thing called happiness, one awkward conversation at a time. I am Erin Clare, your host, who is battling a cold right now, and not the kind that makes my voice sexy, the kind that makes it so I can't breathe well. So that's why I sound as I do. I am joined today by Dr. Rob Stevens, who is an associate professor of rehabilitation science and counseling at Arkansas Tech University. He is the director of the Masters in Counseling program and the faculty advisor to Spectrum, which is a registered student organization for the LGBTQIA plus community. Dr. Stevens's research focus is on the intersexuality. Look at I Freudian slipped. I called it intersexuality. I did that instead of intersectionality, which is what it is, of disability, chronic illness, and sexuality, gender identity. You see why I did that then, right? With a specific focus on neurodiversity, which is wicked cool, as we say here in Boston. Rob shares his life with his partner, Jason, and their two dogs, Toby and Chappie, and many family and friends. Welcome to Happy You Asked, Rob. I'm so glad to be able to chat with you. When I came up with this podcast, you were one of the people I came to mind immediately because you study such cool stuff. So welcome. Happy you're here.
Happy to
Yeah.
be here.
So my first question that I give everybody, what is your definition of happiness?
Okay. Happiness is what gives me peace and joy. Happiness is what I strive for in the day, is to find my happiness. There's days in academia, I'm sure you know, that are stressful and it's hard to find your
No.
and it's hard to find your happiness, but you always have to find it. And if you sometimes it finds you, which is wonderful, but other times you have to go out looking for it, or at least I feel that way. And I always strive to do that. I want to laugh at least a couple of times a day, just to just have that good belly laugh because that just relieves so much stress. And it's just a good thing to do, I think.
Well, what are some moments when you feel happy? Can you describe some?
Well, of course, family, friends, partner, and dogs, they all give me a lot of happiness. Coming home from work after a long day and your dogs are sitting there wagging their tails at you, that's pretty happy, makes you pretty happy, or at least it does for me. Because I'm like, okay, somebody's happy to see me today. It's been a rough day, and they're so happy to see me. They need to go potty, but they're still happy to see me.
Right.
Um,
The
and
smiles and the spins and all of that. Oh, just
Yeah. And
joy.
then like you sit down on the couch and they get up in your lap and just look at you and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
All the stress is gone now.
that's exactly
Um,
right.
that and a hug from my partner or a random text from my best friends, that
Mhm.
are just like, what's up? Or how's your day? Or like we add because we're fun. Or at least I think so. Instead of saying Wednesday or Monday, we say Monday. And so she'll send me a text message. She's straight ally, one of my best friends ever, and she'll be like, "How's your Monday been?" And I'm like, "My Monday has been really great. How's your Monday been?" And she's like, "For a straight girl, it's been awesome." And that always brings me happiness when she, randomly does that. Um, or sends me
Mhm.
a funny voicemail when I'm not available to answer the phone. Because we've been doing that since we were teenagers, where it's like just the randomest, probably not appropriate for a podcast messages that you leave for your best.
Those are the best.
Yeah, and so it
Best.
gives you a good belly laugh when you're like, oh my gosh, she just asked me if I got my order from the adult store, or whatever.
Yes, and those having lifelong friends is just wonderful. Those people where you can, text them just even if you haven't spoken for quite a long time and just say the most random, raunchy, whatever crap. That's just your
Mhm.
truth, right?
We got lucky. Some friends of ours, which my partner had never got to meet them yet before, so we haven't been to Chicago since we've been together. But some friends of mine from Chicago were down visiting family, and we got to go see them a week ago Sunday. And my partner was like, "I can't believe that you haven't seen them in like 3 years, and y'all just like picked up right where you left off, and was like laughing about stuff from like 20 years ago." I was like, "Yeah," I was like, "That's how we roll." So.
That's the best because those people, I I think one of the reasons it's like this because you can't hide from those people. They
Right.
know you when you were, just a ridiculous teenager full of stupidity and hormones and dumb, and they still love you, and you knew them like that. You can't hide from them. So there's no point in even trying, put on this
Right.
pretense. You're just like, no, I'm a mess, and you know it, and it's okay.
Exactly.
Well, can can you talk about happiness with your work?
Okay.
What are some thoughts you have about happiness in the work you do?
I absolutely love what I do, so I find a lot of happiness in what I do. I was a counselor for many years before I went back and got my PhD, and now I get to teach, counselors how to be, future counselors how to be counselors, which is awesome. So a lot of happiness there. Being the initial program director of our master's program has been brought a lot of happiness because I'm getting to see, the work of my colleague Erica Wanilowski and I's labor of getting this program up and running. So there's been a lot of happiness there. When I get to present some of my research at conferences to my peers and get that good feedback from them of, this is an interesting topic. Would you like to work together on a future project? That's always really awesome. As I said, I'm getting into really looking at neurodivergency lately, and that's bringing me a lot of happiness because a lot of my students in Spectrum are people who identify as both a person who is LGBTQ plus and neurodivergent. And I'm seeing a real big uptick in that. And a lot of research across the country is also seeing an uptick in that. So I'm really
Is there a correlation?
there is and there isn't because the research is still pretty new into this of why so many people who are identifying as LGBTQI plus are also identifying on the neurodivergent spectrum as well, being, autism or ADHD or learning disabilities and all the different ones that fall into that category. So that's what I'm interested in right now is finding time because again, being at a teaching university, I don't have a lot of time just set aside for just research. But now that I'm program director, I have a little bit more time on my hands where I can do that. So I'm going to try to launch a new study this fall if all goes well. And I have a grad student that's wanting to partner with me on it. So that'll be
Oh,
amazing to have that extra help and labor because I'm a qualitative person and that takes a lot of extra work. Not that any research is easy, but qualitative, especially doing all the interviews and transcribing the interviews and all that stuff, it's just a lot of work. So it'll be nice to have some grad students that want to team up and help me.
what does the existing research show about it?
There's just a small correlation between the more generations that are coming out, or the more people that are coming out, that there are more and more people that are showing that they are, especially autism and ADHD. Those are the two biggest ones. Anxiety would probably be the third biggest one that I'm seeing research on as well. A lot of people in the community, as you probably already aware, have a lot of anxiety because of various different discriminations and being treated as
Mhm.
other and then with the politics going on in the country and around the world, it's a stressful time for a lot of LGBTQ plus people. But yeah, that's some of the initial research that I'm finding. There's not a lot out there yet because a lot of scholars are just now finding this link and really starting to look into it.
That's interesting. And I wonder too, as this grows and we think about, okay, what exists currently, did that exist in the past? Can we look at like,
Mhm.
um, I mean, we could only probably study prominent LGBTQ plus writers and authors and things like that and say, hey, are they also neurodivergent? Probably, probably is my guess. I was just automatically thought of Oscar Wilde's got to be,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
um,
some of our people from the past that were great minds may have been. And it just wasn't diagnosed back then. I think another reason why we're seeing such an uptick in it is more and more people are getting diagnosed at younger ages with autism, with learning disabilities, with ADHD, than ever before. Because back when I was a kid, you hardly ever heard, and I'm only in my late 40s, didn't hear as very many people being autistic or
nope.
learning disabilities. Now it's like you hear about it all the time. Being a professor, we get accommodation letters all the time. And of course,
Mhm.
in those accommodation letters, it doesn't disclose the disability, but then a lot of the students choose to because they're like, well, I just want you to know a little bit more about me. I am very high functioning autism, or I'm very high, I have a learning disability or whatever. And while they're not required to do that, that's kind of nice for me being a rehab scientist and counselor because then I can really modify those accommodations even better
Yeah.
and even maybe go above and beyond what the law says I have to.
And part of it too, and there's always this conversation, oh, it didn't exist back in the day. Why does it all exist now? Everybody's allergic to peanuts and blah, 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 right? And a lot of it too is, well, back in the day, at least I remember in my school, they just suffered. They just failed, is what happened. And now, I mean, that's not good enough. It's like, well, we don't want them to just fail. Let's see how they can thrive.
Yeah, they either failed or they were thrown into special ed classes that really didn't work for them either, is the historical nature of that. Because they were underachieving in the special ed classes because it was too easy, or
Mhm.
it wasn't challenging enough for them. And so then they didn't really apply themselves like they could because they weren't being challenged with the.
Or there was, I mean, you have a room of special ed with so many different things going on that how do you cater to all of those different needs when you're just one teacher? It's
Well,
really
and
tough.
especially if you're ADHD and you're already easily distracted, and now you have all these other kids with disabilities in the same room that all this other stuff is going on. How can you focus on your schoolwork? That's what one of
Yeah.
my students told me recently is, I wasn't a really good, strong, I wasn't a strong kid, a strong person in high school because there's too many distractions. Because for math, I got thrown in a special ed room that I don't think I needed to be in, but I'd always scored really low in math, and that's why the school always said I needed to be accommodated. But I think I just needed one-on-one with a teacher like showing me that way because here in college I've been able to get that, and I have a B in my college math class, like, and I've
Mhm.
never had a above a C in a math class before.
And that's the success of it. It's a lot of it. It's some people say, oh, too, oh, just we just throw medications at them, but that's just
Yeah,
not the ideal situation, right? The medication might be something to help so they can learn the tools then that are specific to them to be able to focus so that as they go forth, it's not a crush to rely upon, but it's something, oh, this is what I need and this things I need to do to be able to be successful. And until that person understands that, right? It's not going to happen.
right,
All of us are messes in different ways. And then we have our either good or bad coping strategies to deal with that. And I think, at least from what I see, not being an expert at all in this, um, that's what I see is that now we are able to help people develop the skills so that they can then thrive.
right.
Is that right? Is that right, Rob?
I agree. That is, I mean, that's where we need to be. Are we there yet? 100%? No. We're getting there though, with advocacy and with students being better vocal advocacies or advocates for themselves.
Yeah.
That's where I tell a lot of my students here at Tech is, you've got to advocate for yourself because the rest of us, if we don't know that's going on, we can't advocate for you. So if you don't tell me, if you don't tell the director of disability services that you need help in this class, then yeah, you're going to fail this class because we don't know. We just think you're skipping because you're not wanting to be in class. We didn't realize that you were skipping because your anxiety's through the roof and you
Mhm.
don't know how to cope with that in a healthy way.
What do you think is the ideal then for a student who is neurodivergent and is struggling to make the leap between college or any type of schooling and then the workplace where those accommodations, nobody gives a crap, right? In the workplace, they don't care. How do we make that leap?
A lot of education with employers needs to happen still. A lot of employers only know the basics of the Americans with Disabilities Act and what reasonable accommodations really truly are. And a lot of employees are worried to report that to HR after they get hired because they're afraid that they'll be treated as other.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
so also educating the while they're here in college, it is okay to ask for reasonable accommodations in the workplace.
mhm,
It is mandated by law that they're supposed to give you those reasonable accommodations as long as they're seen as reasonable. I always give the example of if you are a person in a wheelchair, you can ask for the office beside the bathroom, and that's a reasonable accommodation. But if you ask for them to build you a brand new accessible office onto the building, that's not a reasonable accommodation. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Or you can, there's certain things that they have to follow according to the law. If they don't, then it's a lawsuit.
mhm.
People like the ACLU love to pick up those cases because they're easy slam dunk cases to win because the ADA is very clear of what it says. You know, a lot of people find gray areas in it and try to find loopholes, but any law they're going to do that with.
The one thing I've wondered, you hear my dog in the background. Again, dogs, I love her. She's my angel. One thing I've always wondered about, though, is something like deadlines, which are so key to so many industries and businesses. If they don't make them meet those deadlines, they're going to lose out.
Mhm.
Sometimes people would say ADHD or anxiety deadlines are really hard. Is that a reasonable accommodation? Because I don't know. I'm honestly really asking, like, what's the reasonable accommodation there in terms of deadlines?
Reasonable accommodations is defined as within limits. Like if you really look at the deadline. So a reasonable accommodation would be if you need a 12-hour extension, a 24-hour extension, that's reasonable. If you're asking for a 2-week extension, that's unreasonable. So it's really up to the
That makes
employer.
sense.
Yeah. It's really up to the employer to decide what is reasonable and what is not. That's one of the problems I think with the ADA, that I would like to see advocates try to change and make that more clear in the law because it just says reasonable accommodation should be judged by the employer. So
Mm,
some employers will say, if you can't get it to me in 24 hours, it's late and you're gonna get wrote up. Other
yeah.
employers would be like, okay, I'll give you 48 hours, but that's the most I can give you because otherwise we're gonna lose money. That makes sense. You're justifying it by saying, we're gonna lose, if we're losing money, then I can't pay you.
Yeah.
But if the employer is just being, I want it in 24 hours because that's what everybody else does, that's not a reasonable accommodation for somebody that has a documented disability.
But that makes sense because there are consequences then that are financial for the company, and reasonable means it won't affect the company in a negative financial way to have this accommodation. That makes sense to me. I can support that. And honestly, if you're just if a employer is just being a dick, they're just being a dick, right?
And
That's not
unfortunately, there's a
good.
lot of employers out there that don't understand the law or choose not to understand the law,
Mm,
and don't treat people with disabilities the way that they're supposed to be treated or that they should be treated.
yeah.
Yeah, it puts a lot of bad taste in a lot of people with disabilities, mouths to not want to go back to work because it's like, well, if this employer discriminated against me like that, then everybody's going to want to, or everybody
Hmm.
could. So why don't I just go back on disability and just stay at home? That's not what we want as advocates for people with disabilities. We want people that can be in competitive employment to be in competitive employment and to be.
Yeah, because then they can contribute to society in ways that typically are larger and more impactful. Well, can you tell me, because a lot of people don't know this term rehabilitation science. Can you tell me what that is?
So rehabilitation science is the undergrad version of what is called rehabilitation counseling. So I'm going to explain both. Rehabilitation science, it was created here at Tech for our program back in the 70s. So it's been around for a long time. We're actually about to have a big anniversary coming up in 2026, so we're getting ready to plan for. But rehab science teaches our students to be able to learn how to work with all different types of people with disabilities, whether that be cognitive disabilities, physical disabilities, mental health disabilities, addictions. Um, we also have our child welfare grant here at Arkansas Tech, where we can teach people how to work with children in crisis, whether it
Mm,
be abuse, neglect, adoption, any of those things. They talk about in our child welfare classes. And we have several women, our employees that work in that department. They go out and train Department of Human Services workers of how to do their jobs. And that's part of
mm,
the grant. We're one of several universities here in the state of Arkansas that are part of that grant. It's all managed by the University of Arkansas, but they have regional offices, and Tech is one of the regional offices.
mm,
And then what Rehab Science program initially was set up for here at Tech was to be a feeder program into master's programs in rehabilitation counseling. And that's what I got my master's in was rehab counseling because I have had a passion for people with disabilities of all different types since I was a little kid. Because when I was 6, my brother was born with cerebral palsy.
oh, I
I've
didn't
been
know that.
around people with disabilities since about the age of 6. And I knew I wanted to go in the helping profession pretty young on because I wanted to do what some of the cool people that were helping my brother Will out. to be an equal part of society. And that's basically what a rehab counselor does. It's a master's level clinician that advocates for and also educates both people with disabilities and employers of how to do reasonable accommodations, how to follow the Americans with Disabilities Act and any other legislation that protects people with disabilities in the workforce. And then also to some agencies like Arkansas Rehab Services, where a lot of rehab counselors are employed, they have some grant money that is set aside in their budget where they can help students with disabilities go and get trained in vocational training or even 2 or 4 year college degrees. So therefore they can be successful in the workforce. And so it's all about people with disabilities. And it again, it doesn't just focus on the narrow scope of physical disability or developmental disability like Down syndrome. It's across the spectrum of disability. So it goes into mental health, it goes into addiction as well. In the rehab field, they call it psychiatric rehabilitation instead of mental
Mhm.
health. It's the same thing. It's just it focuses more on the employment, the independent living. And that's another thing I didn't mention that we teach both at the undergrad and the grad level with our rehab students is that how do we help people with disabilities live as independently as possible? A lot of
Mhm.
people with disabilities want to live in their own apartment or their own house, just like any able-bodied person wants to do. But can they successfully do that? Is the house accessible? Can they actually cook for themselves, clean for themselves, do all those, manage a bank account? Those are skills that a rehab counselor could teach a person with a disability. Um,
Mhm.
and then also, do they need help? Do we need to help them figure out how we can hire in staff that can come in and help them? Whether that be going through an agency to get home health, whether they can get help with bathing and toiletry and all that kind of stuff. Or is it that we need somebody that's going to come in and do house cleaning and laundry and things like that that they're not physically able to do? Or mentally they can't remember how to turn on the washing machine without being prompted. So
Mhm.
the staff is there not to do the laundry, but to prompt them step by step. Okay, first you turn it on. Second, you put the powder in. Third, you put the clothes in, and then you push start. And so they'll give them those individual prompts to do that.
Well, that's wonderful. I know that recently, I think I saw in the news that Arkansas cut a lot of its funding
Mhm.
for these types of services, correct? What is the path now? Is it more hoping for private donors to step up if the state's not providing? What's the direction?
As of right now, I think that has been put on hold because it's been challenged by the ACLU. So funding has not been cut yet. But everybody's really nervous about what is coming down the pipeline of what's going to happen. We are able to start, they're working a lot right now with trying to be able to build private insurances instead of just being able to build public service insurances like Medicaid and Medicare in case those services go away. But that takes a lot of advocacy work of people that know how to talk to insurance people and get them to understand how valuable these services are and why they should pay for them. So that is in the pipeline that I've heard. And then right now, again, they're just trying to fight it through the courts, trying to get it stopped. Um, yeah, a cut would be much better than completely going away. However, we don't need anything cut because a lot of these people with disabilities are going to lose their services. Like, for instance, the Medicaid waiver program that my brother's on is a program that allows staff to be hired to come in and do minimal tasks. Like Wills comes in and sweeps and mops his floors, cleans his toilet, and cooks a meal for him. They're only there
Mhm.
for like 2 hours a day. And that's all Will needs. He's completely independent other than that. He lives in his own apartment by himself, works part-time, does his own thing. But that staff is very crucial to him because if he doesn't have that, then he's going to have to pay out of his own pocket to do that. And that would be very costly to hire somebody to come in and do that, as you know, if you've
Oh,
ever
I
hired.
couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be terrible. Um, well, yeah, so the master's program that you're directing now, this new one, it's a master's particularly in that rehab counseling.
We have two tracks that our students can go through. We have a Master's of Clinical Mental Health, which has been our
Mm.
primary interest so far. And then we have our Master's of Rehab Counseling as well. And we designed the program where there's only two courses that are different between the two tracks. So several of my students that are in cohort one, which started last fall, they're like, I'm just going to pick up the two extra classes so that way I can do both if I want to. And I was like, that's really smart because that's what I did. I am a licensed mental health counselor. Even though I'm not seeing clients right now, I keep that license, because that way I can always go back and do it part-time, or if I get burned out in academia, I could always go back and do it full-time if I wanted to. I don't see that happening, but it's always nice to have that in your back pocket when you work so hard to get a licensure like that. And then I'm also a certified rehabilitation counselor and have been since I finished my master's back in 2002. That's a lot easier to maintain because you don't have to practice to maintain it. As long as you're doing your CEUs, they will let you continue it. The licensure part's a little bit harder, but since I'm teaching full time now in a graduate program, it's made it very easy for me to maintain my LPC now. So
Do you think it's harder or easier overall for, people with disabilities to find happiness? What do you think? I've never actually thought of this question in my life, so I have
yeah.
nothing in there.
I see a lot of people with disabilities finding happiness easily. However,
Mm,
when they're out in the community and they're discriminated against, of course, that makes it a lot more difficult.
mm.
My brother, I don't ever have to worry about him finding happiness because he knows what makes him happy. He loves to go out to eat. He loves to, when he doesn't do it very often, but like going out to eat. My mom is in assisted living. My brother's, a person with disability. So we've decided that every 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to have a family meal where I go down to Little Rock and I pick both of them up. And sometimes my partner goes with me if he's available. And we all just go pick a restaurant and go have a good family meal. And that always makes my brother happy because he's like, I love doing that. And my
Oh.
brother is also a big Broadway fan. So he has
Mm.
season tickets to the Broadway shows that come through Little Rock. Sometimes we even go to Memphis or Fayetteville to see a show. And that always brings him a lot of happiness. If something happens and I can't go, he always gets really upset. He's like, well, what am I going to do now? I was like, well, find somebody else that will take you and they can have my ticket.
Oh. Oh.
Um, and now in Little Rock, he can ride public transportation because he doesn't drive. He doesn't like doing that because if the show's not over by a certain time, then on Sundays when he has his season ticket, he'll have to leave a little bit early, and that does not make him happy. But yeah,
I
so
get that. I get that. Boston public transportation. I get that. I gotta think all sorts of scenarios before I go anywhere.
yeah, and he uses paratransit, so it is door-to-door service instead of your regular transit. But still, on Sundays, unfortunately, they stop at 5 o'clock, so their drivers can have a little bit of a weekend as well. I understand it, but sometimes the shows are not done until 4:30, 4:45, and it cuts it really close for Will to catch his ride.
That's
So when
that,
brother comes, he doesn't have to worry about it because brother can take him home whenever the show is over.
that's right. That's what a good brother does. Well, what does one do then when you have sort of all these little microaggressions that happen and discrimination? How does one still find happiness when you have all of these things going on?
One thing that I always used to remind my clients when I was working full time for United Cerebral Palsy of Arkansas after my master's is that you have to just find something that's going to give you joy on those days that were really crappy. Because we had a client that unfortunately passed away when I worked there, and one of the favorite clients of everybody that went to our adult HAB center. And a lot of the clients were coming in to see me and were like, I don't want to go here anymore, like, because they're not here anymore. And I was like, why would you not want to go here just because they're not here? Well, I'm not, they don't bring a smile to my face anymore because they're gone. Well, who else can bring a smile to your face, or how can you bring a smile to your face? Maybe y'all need to create a new atmosphere instead of it just revolving around this one person that really brought all the joy and happiness. And so again, sometimes it's just advocating and teaching a person with disability that there is other ways to find joy than what you thought there was. Um,
Mm.
Sometimes the staff would just have a dance party when everybody's kind of in a funk. they just go in the cafeteria and clear all the chairs out of the way, and they come around the building and tell us, hey, if y'all are not busy, come to the dance party. And just put on some music and let the men and women that came there just have a good time for an hour. And
I
that
am a
was
fan of dance parties for all people. Just it's do it. I mean, it's so liberating if you just let yourself do it.
yeah, we did that at AGS this year. One of my Area 3 faculty does a line dancing AGS talk. And it's one of the most popular attended ones because the kids absolutely have a blast. And the
Yeah,
faculty
so
just let it go.
for listeners who don't know, he's referring to the Arkansas Governor's School, which I taught at, and I was Area 3 coordinator. And then I give that to Rob, who has been doing that. So can you talk a little bit about what Area 3 is in Arkansas Governor's School?
Yeah. I think Area 3 also brings people a lot of joy and happiness when they really kind of look at the curriculum. So Area 3 of Arkansas Governor School is all about personal growth and development. And so we talk about some tough stuff that may not be as happy, like poverty and social class and things like that. But then we also talk about things like learning more about your personality, doing a social change project, which a lot of the students get really pumped up about because they're like,
Yeah.
I want this to change. Like here in Arkansas this fall, they're doing a no sell bell to bell law. And a lot of the students are really upset about that.
What does
Um,
that mean?
so no cell phones from first bell to last bell are going to
Oh,
be
that's dumb.
because a lot of the schools in Arkansas, this was one of our lovely pieces of legislation that came out this year that I don't necessarily agree with. Um, but again, that's my political belief. But I just know it's going to cause a lot of turmoil for the teachers and for the principals of trying to enforce this law because it's going to be almost impossible to enforce.
And the
Um,
parents, that's the way I see it happen, I'll still have a kid in high school. It's really hard when you need something, not like when to be picked up and when to, they can't tell you. And it's like, well, what the hell? That's dumb.
So now the way it works with this new law is they would have to wait until last bell to get their phone back. And then they could call you and be like, hey, I'm ready to be picked up, but I've been ready for 5 minutes. So I had to wait in line to get my cell phone back. So it's going to cause a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
So the students, one of the groups of students did a social change project about that. This doesn't need to happen. Give us the responsibility that we have to put our phones away and let us self-police it instead of y'all doing it for us. And it was a really cool idea that they came up with because they're like, we'll be a lot better at it and we'll respect each other better than a teacher or principal telling us that we can't be on our phone in the bathroom because we're going to do that anyway.
100%. And then what you see is those if you take that approach, then they're more able as adults to not do things like this is my pet peeve, everyone. Watching videos in public without headphones. The fire, like especially because I fly so much, the fire, the rage that gives me, the rage. And the worst ones are, I'm sorry, it's boomers. It's older people and the ones who complain the most about kids, and they're out there and it's just, ugh. So if you teach the skills when they're in school of social skills, how do you use your phone? When is it appropriate? When it's not? It's
Yeah,
much more effective than locking it up so they don't learn the skills and go out and behave like a-holes.
right.
That's a soapbox. Welcome to my TED Talk. I can't tell you how much I hate when people watch videos without headphones in
That's
public.
a pet peeve of mine too. I agree with you. Or they're on their Bluetooth and they're talking like you're on public transit and you don't know if they're talking to you or if they're talking like on their phone. That's all.
Yes, or they're FaceTiming in public. Don't do that. Or in the bathroom. What is wrong with you? I hate that so much. I'd much rather they have to learn in school. You have a phone. How do you use it? Not like an asshole, right?
Right.
Which is really
And
all
you
of
don't
life.
use it when the teacher is teaching, period. Like that
That's
should
right.
be, just teach that because then when they come to college, I don't have to yell at them for being on their cell phone in class.
Well, just like any friend, and it's a social thing. If someone's talking to you, you shouldn't be on your phone because it's rude, right? If we were having this conversation right now and I was on my phone, like, yeah, Rob, that's really great. What? Right? So
Yeah.
it's part of like other forms of etiquette, not interrupting, things like that, not picking your nose. Cell phones, we got to teach the same etiquette and locking them up. Let's just be like, lock your nose up, right?
Yeah,
It
I don't
doesn't
think
work.
it's the way that they want it to work, but But yeah, so that brought that group a lot of joy because they were like, basically, screw the patriarchy. We're saying we don't want this. We want to do it a different way. And just the feedback that they gave each other at the very end, I had them go around the room and say, what was one thing that you enjoyed about Area 3? What's one thing that you maybe would change if you had the power to change it? Hardly anybody had anything negative to say. A lot of them were like, this was my favorite part of AGS because
Good.
not only did I get to learn from each other, but like I got to talk about some really important things that maybe I haven't thought about from your perspective. I only thought about it from my perspective because the way that I was brought up. And it's broadened my perspective. And, that's always rewarding to me when I hear students talking about that, whether it be at AGS or in my classrooms here at Tech.
Yeah, and anybody, if governor's schools exist around the nation, they're for rising seniors, those entering senior year of high school, and it's for gifted and talented students. They all come together for a certain amount of time, typically on a college campus, and they have areas that they specialize in. And this area 3 is about that, yes, personal growth. So it's knowing what your strengths are, what are your challenges, and focusing on those strengths to do good in the world. And so I firmly believe if you have a governor's school in your state and a child or a relative of that age, send them. It is an incredible program. I highly believe in it. I'm so glad Rob took over Area 3 because I knew he would do an amazing job at it. It is really empowering to say, hey, here's who you are. Here's all the good things about you. Here are your challenges. Now go do something for the world. Because to me, that's what education should be, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
love it.
been a joy to be able to do that after you had to step away and be Area 3 coordinator. Jacob already asked me, our director, if I was considering it again next year. And I said, oh, yeah, sign me up. I'm ready to go again. It's fun.
It is. It's excellent work to do in the summer, and it transforms those student lives in just incredible ways. They become absolutely different people, stronger, braver, more confident, more secure, and with better skills to be able to help the world, which is really what we want. We want leaders, no matter who they are. We want better empowered leaders who know themselves. That's what matters to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a couple final questions. We're already coming to the end. Can you believe that, Rob?
Yeah, it's just gone so fast.
Isn't that fun? All right. Number one, I would like to know what is one of your favorite songs?
Favorite songs. Um,
This goes on a podcast. I mean, on a playlist, damn it. Playlist, I meant.
oh man, I've got so many of them.
You're allowed max two. All right.
Okay. Well, number one, I'm a huge Linkin Park fan.
Oh, fun.
So I would probably have to pick a Linkin Park song. I'm just trying to decide which one. Um, Probably Crawling. I don't know why, but that one always is my number one.
Okay.
Um, and I'm
Cool.
also a huge Evanescence fan because I started
Oh.
following them before anybody knew who they were outside of Little Rock.
Mhm.
And so I would say probably My Immortal. It's a slow song, but it's beautiful. And Amy Lee's voice is gorgeous on that. I'm a huge rocker chick kind of band. I love her. We just got to see Hellstorm just a couple of weeks ago at the Amp.
Oh, fun.
They were amazing.
Ah,
I'm really in love with Lizzie Hale now and in her band. So now that I've seen them live. And so Lincoln Park now has a female lead singer with their revival, and we're going to see them next month in St. Louis. No,
oh, cool.
this month. So I'm really excited about that to see how it's going to sound with a female singing Chester's, lead part. Um,
Mm.
so I don't know how I'm gonna feel about that, but I'm really excited because the new album they just put out is pretty awesome. She's really strong.
We
So
gotta be open to it. Sort of like, do we let Journey continue? Yes. Sing, man. You sing well. Let's dance, right? We gotta be open.
so I'm excited about that. So, yeah, those
And
would probably
then
be the two that I would add to the playlist.
I will put them on 100% happily. Now, if you could tell the world one thing about happiness, final thoughts, what would it be, Rob?
Just always, and I'm still in a quote, but I love the quote, find your joy.
Hmm.
Just always in the day, find a way to have a good laugh, find a good way to find some happiness. Even if it has been the crappiest day of your life, you've got to end it, in my opinion, with some type of happiness. Find a clip of your favorite comedian or comedy person, or watch your favorite comedy show, whatever, you know. The other day, I'd kind of had a crappy day, and I'd seen several people posting about one of the new South Park episodes. I don't watch that very often, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to stream that episode and just see what all the talk's about. And I laughed so hard; it was hilarious. I haven't watched that in forever, but it was just like, okay, that was how I found my happiness that day, is watching a 20-minute, completely ridiculous television show. But it made me laugh. So just, find your joy. And again, I can't think of the TikTok person and Instagram person that says that. So I wanted to
Oh,
get.
I know him. He's fine. He's the
Mhm.
teacher, right? He like teaches elementary school.
I can't think of his name. I'm stealing that from him, but I want to give him credit where credit is due. But he always ends his little videos with "Find your joy," and I just love that. And so I've been saying it a lot too.
I love that. Excellent advice. Well, thank you so much for talking with me, and talking about some important issues. I appreciate you, and I look forward to next time.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye.